Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson, and this is Jective's Typography News number 10. Can't believe it's been 2 weeks since I did the last one. I mean, I can't make any promises, but I hope that it's never 2 weeks between these news streams. Again, I was putting a lot of effort into doing the review for this. Thinking with Type, this is a book that I have read many times, and there is a video already on the channel, but there's a new one up, so add that to your watch later. Or, if you don't want to sit here and watch me talk about the news, go watch that now. It's very long, very in depth, but I think it's the best one so far as quality, but it can always get better, so I'll work on that too. But yeah, like I said, it's been 2 weeks since I've been on here, so there's a bunch of stuff to talk about, way more than I could fit into one video. So or one stream. So we're gonna get through as much as I can today. I have my Notion list up here that I'm gonna go through, and then I think we'll get through everything I have on my list, but it's not everything from the last 2 weeks. So the next stream is gonna be playing a little more catch up, and then we should be getting to like the most recent, breaking news again, as breaking news as typography can get. Let me switch to my screen if I can remember how every time I say that. There we go. Little Curtis down in the corner. So I got 3 different stories about Monotype today. Monotype is the the giant in the typography industry. So anytime there's news about them, I think it's worth looking at least. If you see me glancing down here, I have my chat window down there. So I don't want to miss any live chats if there are any. Okay, so this is on Design Rush, which I don't know much about this website. It's to me it seems mostly like a middleman between like people that need designers and people that have agencies. You can see at the top there, list agency, find agency. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is this interview that they did with this executive creative type director. And I don't know how to say Terrence's last name. Terrence Weinzierl. We're just gonna call him Terrence from Monotype. I'm not gonna go through everything, but basically, this article by Enrique Jose Tabuena. Gosh, I think I'm more confident with that one. But Enrique and Terrence had a conversation about typography and Monotype and what brands can do to be better with their typography. There's a little bit of credibility data stuff here saying 81% of consumers need to trust a brand to consider buying from it. And basically their premise is that you can use typography to be more trustworthy. And I would agree with that. I mean, if you were using a silly font, everyone likes to hate on Comic Sans, but like if you're using Comic Sans as like the typography, the font on your website, and someone knew nothing about you, it better be a super silly, ironic brand, because no one's going to take that serious or trust you. Here's some background. They give some credibility, or they give you, I can't think of some qualifiers and stuff to let you know who he is and maybe why you should trust him. He's worked on typography projects for PBS, Microsoft, Google, Barnes and Noble, Domino's. So yeah, he's in the industry and working with big brands. At the end of this, they do a case study with M&M. But what I want to look at are what they think, what Terrence presents as like 4 things that brands are doing wrong with their typography, that makes people potentially not trust them. So number 1 is relying on default fonts that dilute brand personality. This is going to be a common string, I think, that I can pull through this video. But this is a big one that I'm a little bit torn on, because obviously if you're thinking about default typefaces, if you're literally choosing the default one, I think he's more so talking about the default one, that like designers and typographers would think about, not necessarily the default in terms of like Minion or Myriad or back in the day Times New Roman, or Arial. I think he's thinking about the default in terms of like what are the most common. Like if you go to Monotype and you look at the top 10, it's like Helvetica, Helvetica New, Helvetica Now, Gotham, maybe Sophia's in there. Just a bunch of sans serifs, and they all kind of look the same. So I think that's interesting. And I had a conversation briefly on Blue Sky with Mostar Design. What's his name is actually Olivier. Let me see if I can get it. I had these loaded. There he is right there. Olivier Gorvat. Man, I'm 0 for 3 on names today. But I've had conversations with him on Blue Sky before. This isn't any knock on him. You can see right here, Strata Pro. He's an excellent type designer. He designed Sophia. But look how nice this is. This isn't one of the fonts that we were supposed to be talking about. Look at this. Look at this ligature on the FF though. That's incredible. Yeah, so Strata Pro he's got on here, posted about a month ago. The point of this though was because he posted this comment on June 3rd, so almost 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, I guess. Good type whispers, bad type screams. And I asked him an honest question here, said, do you really believe that? I wasn't trying to like gotcha or be snarky or anything. Do you really believe that? He responded a day later and said, yes, in many cases, a good typeface supports the message quietly. You notice it most when it goes wrong. I would say that's a little bit of a pullback from what he was originally saying. So he's kind of saying, before he was saying like good type whisper, bad type screams. My comment back isn't super relevant. You can sit here and read it. You can pause the video and replay and play it if you want. But my point was like, I don't think that typography, there are times when typography needs to like go into the background. If you're just reading text, if you're reading on a Kindle or you're reading the news, like, yeah, you don't want to think about that typography, but I don't think that means that bad typography is noticed. I think that this is more accurate, what Terrence is saying. Relying on the default can dilute your brand personality. If you're just using the most basic font that no one notices, the most basic typeface that no one even, it just doesn't even register, they're not going to remember your brand. All of the politicians that use the exact same font, all of the brands that use the same sans serif, no one's going to remember anything they do, or they're not going to remember anything about their typography. And I don't think that that's a great thing. I think that Terrence here from Monotype is more accurate in saying that like using the default fonts, the ones that are quiet, the ones that whisper, are going to be forgettable, and that's not a good thing for your brand. Number 2, leaving the style guide of your brand Bible unfinished. Basically, some of this comes down to budget. I've worked on brand projects where they don't even they don't even want a style guide, but you make it anyway. Does that mean they'll follow it? No, but he's suggesting here that you should even break it down into like, what are we going to pair this with? What do we, do we need to specify like the text one and then the display style? Do we need to set up like H2, H3? Like choose the actual fonts and decide what they're going to be in the brand. He's calling it a brand Bible. I would call it like a style guide or a brand guide. Choose what those are going to be ahead of time, so you don't have to think later. It's kind of like the grids book that we read, Grid Systems. In that book, you set up your grids, so you don't have to think about it later. Set up your typography ahead of time, then you're not making all these decisions in the moment. And I know that takes more effort up front, but it makes your life much easier down the road. Number 3, choosing fonts that don't scale across use cases. I think that everyone has done this before. I would argue that I'm currently doing this with my brand fonts for objectives. I'm using it as sort of a challenge to try and make my typeface Silver type work, because it's what would have been used during the arts and crafts movement, and people wrote entire books with this. So I'm sure that I can make it work for a website or YouTube videos and stuff. I take it as a challenge, but I think that if you were creating this for a brand, you wouldn't give them this challenge. You would want to make it as easy as possible, and not thinking about what the font's going to be able to do ahead of time could cause just a ton of headaches. So I think that's another great piece of advice. Number 4 was overlooking licensing and long-term usage rights. We talked about this in the Thinking with Type book review I just did. We've talked about licensing a bunch of times on this channel. Licensing is a pain in the butt, but it's an essential part to understand about typography, about graphic design. So yeah, you got to figure it out. And my suggestion, there are 2. 1, use open font license, sell open font license, go use Google Fonts, go use Font Squirrel, subscribe to Adobe's Adobe Fonts so that you can just get the fonts, use them, and not think. You use either any of those 3 on your own projects. I'll just say that for now. Use any of those 3, and in most cases, you're going to be 100% fine. If you're working for clients, then Google and Font Squirrel are going to be okay because those are open source. Adobe, there's some weird licensing and stuff that you'd have to figure out with your client. But until you understand that, use those. My second suggestion is that if a brand is super complicated with their license, just find a different font. There are literally hundreds of thousands of typefaces. If a foundry has a super complicated license and they're going to be a pain in the butt about it, they need to get paid clearly. But if they're making it so difficult to understand what you can and cannot do and trying to nickel and dime you for every use case, just find a different typeface. Like, there are well-designed typefaces with simple font license that are going to make your life easier. You're going to love working with them. I have my 2 typefaces from Type Error, oh no, not Type Error, from Terror. Oh my gosh, I can't even think right now. Letter and Canada Type. And I've had great experiences with both of those foundries, and I'm happy because the licenses, they're just simple, they make sense. I knew what I was getting. Yeah, so understand your license. That's definitely a mistake that could happen. But I thought this was interesting too. Build a system that can flex. So like it says, the most expressive brands don't cling to a single typeface. They build coordinated families of fonts designed to shift tone without losing identity. And we saw this recently when we looked at, I think it was Typography News 5. We looked at Nike. This system that was put together for them, and you can see right here they've got 3 different typefaces, but probably if you look at these, it still all feels like Nike. But you're looking at Helvetica, Futura, and then Palatino, 3 completely different typefaces, right? But it all still feels like Nike. And when I first read that comment from Terrence in that interview from Monotype, I thought like, is that accurate? But then I thought back to this Nike system that whoever this is, Kirpa Hosk, put together for them. And yeah, like this looks amazing and it still works even though the 3 typefaces are completely different. At the end of this, he's asked a little bit about AI, and I've kind of strayed away from AI somewhat on here because I've been compiling a lot of AI stuff that I want to talk about like all at once. I don't know where my head is at, and I guess with the news, I just don't necessarily have to have an opinion. I can just report it objectively. You guys are welcome to tell me what you think about AI in terms of typography or design or just in general. I'd be open to hearing what that is. But here he's talking about AI and typography, and Terrence from Monotype is saying that AI isn't coming for our typefaces. They aren't coming for our jobs. And he mentions pencil. I was like, what the heck is pencil? Pencil is this. I saw this, well, this is the press release. I saw this press release a while back, last month, June 25th, so about a month ago. Pencil and Monotype are partnering. I'm often reporting the news here about Monotype partnering with someone, and there's going to be another one right after this. But this is an AI company that does basically like generative marketing ads, and like let's just sit and watch these for a second because it's so silly how bad some of these are when you if you just actually sit and look at them. And these are their hero banners. These are like the they're showcasing this as like this is the best you're gonna get. Anything they make for you isn't gonna be better than this. Look at this guy shaving his beard, just touching his face with it like that. This guy power washing. I mean, that looked pretty accurate. This looks cool, but then look at the bottom. Look at the snake here. The snake's like going into the table. His tail is like turning into two different things. AI is here. This is the worst one though. Anyway, that's not typography, but what they're doing when they partner with Pencil is that somehow they've created a system in which monotype fonts can be used within Pencil. So instead of look at this label though, that looks terrible. Instead of the generative AI just creating some kind of typeface, some kind of font and like putting it on there. I know you've seen these where it just looks terrible. Monotype is partnering with them in a way that monotype fonts are going to be able to be implemented into Pencil generative AI advertisements. I haven't thought a lot about it, but I do think the fact that real fonts are going to be used and then they'll likely be paying typeface designers is a good thing. So rather than like stealing a typeface, rather than just like stealing, what do we talk about? We talked about Sophia earlier. Rather than just stealing Sophia and putting it in there, generating it again, maybe most art designs gets paid for Pencil or whoever is using Pencil to use that typeface. So I think that's an interesting, what would you call it? An interesting development in the world of typography, in the world of AI. But let's go ahead and move on. We've got Monotype partnering with Wix. So we've got two different press releases, one on Monotype, one on Wix. One on Monotype is just boilerplate for the most part. I've read a bunch of these press releases and they always kind of say the same thing. The takeaway here is just that Monotype is continuing to partner with these platforms. It says new fonts empower self-creators and agencies with a diverse range of high-quality typefaces. Literally, like what they say on everything. So we don't need to really look through this one too much. We've seen in the past, Monotype has long time been a partner with Adobe fonts, but I think a month or two ago, they added another 1,500 typefaces to it. We saw them partner with Canva, adding like, I don't know, over 1,000 fonts to Canva if you pay for like the premium version of it. And now we're seeing them partner with Wix, and these three aren't the only ones. There are just tons and tons of these partnerships. And yeah, I don't have an opinion on it one way or the other. People are getting access to good typefaces, and that's always good. I know that typeface designers, type designers want people to use their fonts, and more of these partnerships just means more people are going to have access to good typefaces, and it means they're going to be used, and it surely means that the type designers are going to get paid. So Wix Monotype partnership. I'm not sure how many fonts they're getting from them. It said like a curated list, a curated collection or something like that. So yeah, newly curated typeface collection. So they don't give a big number. I'm assuming that's because it's smaller than Canva and Adobe. Otherwise, you would think that it would be a bigger number. They would write some number on there. But yeah, quick little news story there. Last thing about Monotype, and this was going to be breaking news 2 weeks ago, or like a week and a half ago, but they added an entry, and it's this lowercase letters. They added an entry into their manual. It's a guide to typographic knowledge and solutions. This isn't something that I was familiar with before, and Adobe does have a lot of resources. This is on my fonts, I guess. I said Adobe, I meant Monotype. Monotype does have a lot of resources. If you go to their actual website, go to monotype.com, look for the resources section. They have a ton of different things on there. A lot of it is kind of like they give you a taste of something, but really it's marketing. But this manual on my fonts looks pretty cool. This FYTI, this is a terrible, I don't know what this is. Rebranded this my fonts. This is terrible. It stands for your typographic information, but this is ugly. This is just I don't know what that is or why anyone would do it, but yeah, it is what it is. What I wanted to look at though was these different things here. We'll pop into the lowercase one and you can get an idea of what it is. Maybe it'd be easier if we pop in, you can see what one is, and then we'll look at the other topics. They've got it here, but I think the better thing to do is just get the PDF version of it and you can go through it. Basically, it's set up kind of like a presentation. Let's see if we can get this bigger. It's set up like a presentation, lowercase letters, and you can see we talked about this in the recent book review as well, but lowercase letters didn't exist in the beginning of Latin typography, what we're considering Latin typography. There was Roman capitals, and that was it. And then later we made, lowercase letters were made. So it kind of goes through some history. It goes through the calligraphy. It's a decent little history segment about lowercase letters. And the reason they're called lowercase, you can see the little picture there. It's because the capitals would have been on top, and then what do we call lowercase? Minuscules? And then the lowercase was in the lower case of like metal pieces of type. So there's uppercase and lowercase. Literally was just because there was a physical case rather than capitals. And I feel so dumb right now. Are they called minuscules? I'm like 85% sure. But yeah, so that's kind of what it is. Just these quick little, that one was history, but sometimes they're more informative in terms of like how you could do certain things. So this is handwriting fonts and like how to use them. And it gives you a little bit of what to look for and things like that, like how you might choose one. This one seems to be significantly shorter than the lowercase one, but it might be interesting if you're new to typography. I'm not new to typography, and these are still pretty interesting to me. Tattoo typefaces, tips for using fonts and logos, hints for all caps. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was worth mentioning because I do talk about a lot of beginner stuff here. This isn't necessarily beginner entirely, but it would definitely help beginners if they were interested. I think beginners and professionals alike, and they're quick little lessons. You don't have to sit and listen to me talk for an hour and a half about one book. You can just pop on here and check out one of these entries in the manual. And if you subscribe to their newsletter, I'm pretty sure you get that on there as well. This one here, this news came out 18 days now because this is July 1st. Let me grab a drink of water. We already knew that Figma was making moves to go public. They did it privately first, but now they've made they've made their registration public. How would you say this? In another life, I was in the finance world. I got my first bachelor's degree was in finance, and then I got my MBA, and then I went back to school to become a designer. So, I'm a little bit rusty on these, but yeah, they're in the process to become a public company, and they're filing their S1. And previously they'd done that privately, so like people couldn't look at it, but now you can go and you can just read the S1, the forms, and you can see like what they're presenting to potential investors. So I don't know. The reason I bring this up isn't necessarily because I don't even use Figma, to be honest. Like I'm not someone that uses Figma, but it has just taken over the UX UI, the interface, the website. They've got their web builder now, and they're bringing out new tools that are sort of going to be competitors with like Adobe Illustrator, and some of the other Adobe and Affinity software. The reason I'm bringing this up is because it's another private company in the design space that is going to become public, and that typically means, cover your ears, children, enshittification is upon us, which means that as much as people love Figma right now, as soon as they go public, they're going to have I'm going to say this, and then we're going to go through a comment that they make in this filing, or in this statement about the filing. This is a general blanket statement. When a company goes public, they have an obligation to their shareholders to maximize shareholder wealth. What does that mean? Stock go up. It means if an investor bought their stock for $100, they want it to go up to $200 so they can make money. So in that situation, Figma has an obligation to those shareholders to do what's going to be best for the company, and in most situations, in most people's minds, that is, make my stock price go up so that I can sell this to someone else and retire or whatever. Figma, though, they make a note in here. Gosh, let's see if we can find it. I think it was actually in... They make a note in here saying like that they're dedicated. I should have highlighted this before I got on here. I'll paraphrase here, and I'll add these links after the live stream. You can go, or you can just go look it up. But I did read somewhere where Figma was saying basically like, we know what I just said. We know like what typically happens when a company goes public, and we want to ensure everyone that we are committed to making sure that Figma is like still good. Basically, we're not gonna sacrifice short-term profits over like the long-term health of the company. And that's something you love to hear. That sounds amazing, but it's also exactly what every company says. It's exactly what every company says when they go public. So take it with a grain of salt. It is nice to hear them say though, but just know that Figma is going public, and it'll be interesting to see what happens because there's a lot of typographic use in Figma. And while I don't use Figma, I know a lot of you do. Let's move on away from the corporate nonsense. Let's get into some more fun stuff and talk about more corporate nonsense. No, a little bit. Type du Nord, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or not. This is from July 8th, partnered with DocuSign. And I thought that this was super cool because it's just cool to see something fun like this happening, because DocuSign is huge. Like they could just stick to like basic ass typefaces. No one cares. But I know that I go through and I have to like e-sign a document. I go through and choose the font that I want my signature to be in. And it's cool that they're working with type designers and letterers and stuff like this to have more options and to have like better options. And Type du Nord, gosh, I really hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I apologize. Type du Nord, I'm just going to keep repeating it like it's right. Broke down the typefaces that were used by DocuSign, that are going to be used by DocuSign, and then how they were developed. And the reason I really want to point this out is because I love when type designers and graphic designers show their references. I love when they show the references, show the process, and show the mistakes. And seeing this right here, the type designer is pointing out like this is what it was inspired by. And you can see like it's clearly not a ripoff, but you can see some of the influence when you compare the two. And I really like that. I like that they're reaching this sort of achievement and then not just pretending they pulled this out of a magic hat, that like they just did it all on their own. No, we all take inspiration from somewhere. And it's really cool to see both somebody succeeding and getting, a big project like this. Presumably they got a payday because they partnered with DocuSign. And then also having them show like, here's where this came from. And then you've got the second one here that says it's probably Rube. It says short for rhubarb. This is a super cute font. And you can see the inspiration there and the a couple of the specimens and some of the updates and things like that. But super cool. I'll link this in the description afterwards as well. It's a short note, but it's a fun one. I'm going to burn through these next branding sections because I don't think that they're as much fun as the typography, the new releases that we're going to get to. So I'm going to go through these quick, but you can definitely go check out anything that you find more interesting, that you want to spend more time with. This is very much like like my first Thinking with Type video. I'm just trying to plant seeds. You can go look up the news stories that you find more interesting. This is, looks like we're back on. Let me see if the stream, how the stream health looks. It says we've successfully reconnected. I think that we're still connecting streaming software to go live. I'm just gonna sit here and talk with this on the screen. I think that we're back on. Are we live? Are we live? I think that we're live. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Looks like we may have dodged a bullet there. Let me get this off the screen. There we go. We are on How Studios and their brand design for Joopy. Let me go ahead and let this keep playing. Okay. Gosh, it throws me for a loop. This happened 2 weeks ago too, and I feel like I'm having a flashback of that. Oh, there's actually a lot of people working there. Kat is who I've typically talk to. Kat Howe. She's the founder and executive creative director of How and How. But they did this branding for Joopy, and I thought it was super cool. But it is for like an AI company, and some of these AI companies, you don't really know what the hell they're doing. You just don't know. I don't know. You don't know. They throw out a bunch of buzzwords, buzzword salad. Let's just combine buzzwords and word salad. They throw out a bunch of buzzword salad, and I get flashbacks to the cloud hype. I get flashbacks to the crypto hype. I get flashbacks to the NFT hype. I get, like, this is what a lot of AI stuff is right now, and I think most of it, like most of crypto and NFTs, is going to go to zero. I think most of the stuff will be gone in 10 years, and then, you know, we'll have winners at the end of it, just like the dot-com bubble. But maybe this will be one, maybe it won't, but there's some cool branding in the meantime. And I do think the imagery is pretty cool, but the conversation that I had with Kat about this was about the typeface, because, man, the typography is so perfectly picked for this surreal imagery. Like, it just looks so perfect. And it's by Display with 2 A's. But what is it called? It's called Fennel, F-E. Oh my gosh, we're not looking at the screen. Let me go back. I'm so dumb sometimes. Okay, here we are. We're on Joopy. How and How. Here's the typeface that we're looking at. It's called either Fennel or F-E-N-U-L. Okay, so let's look at it with the imagery, and you can see what I'm talking about. It looks really cool, and I think that it matches very well. It's not this typeface that's being used for the word mark here, but I think that it matches it perfectly, and it just goes great with all of the imagery that they've included. So I particularly like it on this boardroom door here. I don't know why. It just seems cool. And I know this just generated. This is just, you know, a mock-up or whatever, but it looks cool. Anyway, so I talked to Kat. I asked her what it was. You can see this is How and How's Instagram. Asked what it was. Here it is. You can get a trial of it from display.net. Display with 2 A's, like I said. But yeah, I thought that this was very nice, and you can see it even a little more in action here on Display's website. I don't love it at the super thin size right here. This is Fennel Standard Thin. But at the thicker sizes, the heavier weights, I think it looks really great. And we don't have time to go through all of this, but there are a ton of open type features with different, there are different ligatures, there are different alternates, there are discretionary ligatures. It's a super deep typeface. It's exactly what you would want. Like we talked about with the monotype interview, it's exactly what you would want from a font. It's going to scale properly. It's a variable font. It's got a ton of weights. They probably still need to combine this with some kind of sober sans serif, just for when they really need, when they really need And they've got it right here. So you can see the sans serif right there. You got to have that because it would be a lot to read a lot in that. But this looks great too. I didn't even ask her. I didn't even check to see what that one is. Yeah, I just think that the typography and this branding looks amazing. It all looks amazing. I don't know. I think Joopy is a terrible name because if we look up Joopy AI, you get some like fantasy. I'm not even gonna click on it. You get some kind of like fantasy role play. So I think they picked a terrible name for their brand. This has nothing to do with how and how, but Joopy, when you try to Google it and see like what it is, or I'm searching on DuckDuckGo, but like you try to look what it is, and it's some weird fantasy role play app. So there's definitely some problems with the naming here. They're gonna have to sort out, but the typography here is excellent. How and How did a great job with this branding. And yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Let's go on. The next one is Wim, or maybe it's WIM, and it's a bakery. Let's just reject all the cookies. I saw this on It's Nice That. If you don't know It's Nice That, I will be shocked that you're watching a video by me and you don't know It's Nice That. But if you don't, they do a lot of, they basically do stories about design and typography, and it's like It's Nice That this. So Wim Bakery, oh yeah, I guess it is Wim because that's lowercase there. Wim Bakery, they got a rebrand by Kevin, and I don't know how to say this O here, so I'm gonna say Kevin Hoger, Zurich based. He did this croissant design here, and no hate, but I kind of think it looks like poop. Like, not that it looks bad. I think it actually looks like a turd or like a slug or something. If I saw that and I didn't know that it was a croissant, I would just think that it's poop. Maybe you wouldn't, but I think in context, it's going to work excellent. Like, you see it in this context, you're not going to go to this bakery, and it looks great at the bottom of that, kind of. You're not going to go to this bakery and think that it's poop. You're going to be like, oh, that's a croissant, hopefully. I think the branding looks great. Let's look at the Instagram real quick. You can see it here. You know, the food looks amazing. Like, it's hard to deny that. But the story is really interesting. He talks about how he went into the space. They were basically, Wim Bakery was basically going to like use a space that already existed that was just recently renovated and stuff. The whoever was there before moved out after like 2 years. They're going to keep almost everything that's in there, and he's designing this identity around mostly what already exists there. The croissant doesn't really matter here. What I'm interested in looking at is the typeface, and you can see here Wim Bakery. And I was looking at this, and I was trying to guess before I actually looked it up. Like, is it the M that's upside down, or is it the W that's upside down? Because you can see that it's clearly not an actual WIM. It's either a W flipped or it's an M flipped, because they match perfectly. And in almost every typeface, you're not actually going to do that. So this is the typeface. It's by Mockup Maison. And this is their brand typeface, and then they started selling it and offering it to other people. So they do have a bunch of different weights and stuff. They have this also cracked version. I'm not sure how well you're even going to be able to see that. But like if you do like the black, like you do a super bold one and it's cracked, you can see that. I don't love the cracked one, but I guess maybe there's some sort of use case, maybe for Halloween or something. I don't know. Maybe there's some use case where this would make sense. My guess with this, and this is completely a speculation, is that this was the result of a happy accident, where their vector letter forms were intersecting at like the heavier weights, and rather than fixing them, they just let the space break. That would be my guess, but I could be entirely wrong. Regardless, this is the font that Wim is using, and you can see the W is right there. Let's go ahead and type it out. Wim. And you can see that it is actually the W that's flipped upside down. Is anyone ever going to care about this? No, but is it a cool way to make this just a little bit more unique rather than using the out of the box M, because Kevin could have just used the regular M that came with this branding. But I think just that one little detail, just popping that in there instead of the actual M, using the W upside down, it makes a big difference. I think it looks, I don't know, I just think it looks really cool. I do think the croissant looks like poop, but I think the branding works, and I think in context, it's going to be great. Maybe it looks more like a slug than poop, but there's a lot of cool stuff going on with this branding in terms of like the imagery is based on those tiles. So you saw a lot of the tiles that were on the wall, but the actual imagery of the food is like he was inspired by flour on the tabletops, on the countertops. And so you see these like grainy photographs and stuff like that. I think the identity is amazing, but would I ever wear, oops, I thought that was actually going to open in the background. Would I ever wear this hat that looks like it has a turd on it? No, I wouldn't wear that, but I would definitely go there and eat. Next up, this is another AI company, but this one is AI to help doctors screen for cancer. It's called See the Signs, and this was a design by Dixon Baxi, I think. Let's see if their website actually loads. I don't know what's going on here. Dixon Baxi, okay. And the See the Signs website is terrible. I'm just going to show you this so we don't have to look at it. We're going to go over the Dixon Baxi case study rather than look at this website, because this is a horizontal scrolling website. You scroll up and down, but the screen moves left and right. Look at this. Someone thought this was cool. It's not me though. I don't know how this works on mobile. Like, do you swipe up and it scrolls to the left? This is terrible. Don't do this, guys. Just make a normal website that scrolls up and down. So this is the case study right here. They've got some animation and stuff, but you can actually scroll the website. This one isn't super interesting to me, but the reason I wanted to bring this one up is because of this P right here. Not this P. Let's see. We talked about this in a recent Typography News segment where we were talking about Pearson rebranding to like an AI first company. And you can already see, you know, whenever we see like a new AI company, whether it's ChatGPT or Perplexity or who else is there, Claude, all of their logos look the same. It's just like this symmetrical circle nonsense. Pearson rebranded. Where's the case study at? Let's see. Well, you can see up here, this little P here. Pearson rebranded recently, and they put that little thing there. I really wish we could find let me look on my Notion real quick. Pearson, because it was from Type News 7. Here it is. Landor rebrands Pearson. So they did this P, and I was kind of, I didn't say this one looked like poop. I said this one looked like an earplug. But I was more critical of the fact that Pearson was moving away from being focused on humans and textbooks than they're moving to like AI now and firing everybody. But you can see this, what they've done with this P here, and they've kind of got this shape, and it shows up through a lot of the branding. And then a month or two later, See the Signs rebrands, and they've got that similar looking little shape going on, this little echo thing. And I just think it's funny. You can see it there. I think we've seen this sort of thing before, maybe with Spotify Wrapped or something like that. I don't know. We've seen this before, but specifically that little shape on the edge there, this really reminded me of Pearson's rebrand. And I'm wondering if there is some sort of great minds think alike moment going on here where there's some connection being made to like the generative AI or the large language models or the pattern recognition of AI. And people are coming up with these same solutions to the rebrands, because you've got the P there with the little echoes on the outside of it, and we've got the 8 here with the little echoes on the outside of it. And if you get the right character, it looks incredibly similar. You can see right here the typography. They got this little animation with the 8, and they got those little waves on the outside of it. They have the little contact us here with the little waves on the outside of it. And it looks, if you showed me this and I didn't see the little see the signs logo, I would 100% believe that this was the Pearson rebrand. I would just think that this was the same thing. So this came out, when was this? June 26th. And then this See the Signs case study came out, I don't know, a week or within the last 2 weeks. So I don't know. I guess I don't have much more to say about that, but the typography looks nice. That was the one thing I wanted to point out. This typography here, I did look at it and I thought, yeah, that looks like it goes with AI. Like that looks like something, it's friendly enough. They've got it turned real tight here, or tracked real tight here. Yeah, tracked. The typeface looks friendly enough, like welcoming enough to be used in like a medical hospitality, not hospitality, a medical like hospital field type thing. But it also does feel modern, futuristic. It feels like it goes with an AI brand. So I think the typography is excellent, even though I think that it looks an awful lot like the Landor rebrand of Pearson. The typeface is by TypeType. It is TypeType Commons Pro, and you can get it on Adobe if you have an Adobe, if you have access to Adobe fonts. So I thought that was pretty cool that if you liked the typeface, you can get access to it if you already have access to Adobe fonts. A lot of times you see these fonts and you want to maybe use them for something, or you like it in general and you just want to play around with it, and it's going to cost you $1,000 or something crazy like that. But yeah, so you can get it on Adobe fonts if you like the typography that's on See the Signs. And I do like it. I think it's very nice. So TypeType is always a winner. TypeType rarely misses. And you can get it on Adobe fonts as part of the subscription. Or of course, you can go buy it from them directly. Let's get into some new fonts. I need some more water. Last week, I was almost, not last week, 2 weeks ago, I was almost finished, and I was gonna talk about Atlas of Type. Let's go to the homepage real quick. Atlas of Type. This is the page. It's basically like a database. I think he calls it like a directory. Atlas of Type is a directory of contemporary independent type design. And I think when I was reading that sentence last time, the stream turned off. So hopefully we don't have the same issue today. But if you don't want to sit around and wait for me, if you don't want to try and have the Instagram algorithm bless you with whatever they're going to show you, or if you don't want to subscribe to hundreds of newsletters like I do, Atlas of Type does a great job of posting all of the new releases. He doesn't do them like every single week. So if you come and watch Objectives, I will probably update you more often. But he is very, very, very thorough. So you can scroll through. If we just look at the last one. So the last one came on July 4th. And that was just like a week, I guess, before we did our last one. I'm mixed up on my days. But you can see he goes through and he'll show you the font on the right here and then says a little bit about it on the left. So you can kind of get a glance at everything. And then he links to all the typefaces. So I'm just clicking on, which one did I click on? I clicked on Advocate by device. And it takes you right to, the Foundry website. So there's no fuckery. There's no no marketing. There's no messing around. I'm sure he could monetize this with affiliate links or something. But there's no headaches with this. It's just like pure love of typography, helping people out, releasing these. And like I said, they're not, the timing between them isn't super consistent right now. I'm sure that he'll figure out how to make all of this work. But as someone who's trying to cover typography news, I can tell you right now, it does not stop, and it piles up and it piles up. And the way that he does this website, being as thorough as he is, he can't choose. I mean, he could choose, but he doesn't. He can't just not talk about things. I can take a week off of this and just not talk about it and talk about the new stuff that comes up. But having this entire directory like he does and keeping up with the quality of it, I'm scrolling right now. This is all one entry. This is all one. This is all from recent releases number 35. So he's done 35 of these releases. He used to do them every week, but you can see when you look at this, you can understand why he's struggling to keep up with these. Plus, you can see this website doesn't monetize this in anything. I don't know how he's finding time to do this. But yeah, what the whole point of this was, this got cut off at the end of the last live stream. If you want to see a very thorough list of new releases, go check out Atlas of Type. It is type-atlas.xyz. I'll link it in the description after the live stream. Let's get into new releases that I thought were interesting, though. The first is by Parachute, and maybe I should have saved this one for the end because I think it's so amazing, but there are a lot of amazing fonts. So let's kick things off with a bang. Is that how the phrase goes? I don't think so. But let's kick things off with something nice. And it is, what is this called? Harmonia. Harmonia by Parachute. Man, I'm not used to talking anymore. You can see it's a variable font by the way that it's animated right here, and the word variable, but you've got some different weights set out here and they just look incredible. It's got very tall ascenders. Here's a nice little diagram. So it's got the X height right here, X height, ascenders. I think the ascenders are twice the X height, and then I think the descenders are half the X height. So the descenders, like this bottom part of the G here, is pretty small compared to the X height and the ascenders, the top part of this K here. So it's an interesting, it makes for an interesting like tall typeface, but it's not going to take up like a ton of space as if in comparison to like a font that had very tall ascenders and very tall descenders. But it looks great. It just looks so modern, and I don't know. This is one of those typefaces where I don't even know what to say about it. It just looks so good. And Parachute does a great job of displaying their typefaces on their websites. Sometimes they complain about specimens not really living up to what the typeface is, and there are going to be some of those today. But Parachute is not one of those brands that I complain about. They've got this funky website. I think you can change the colors on it too. They've got this funky website with all these different little tabs and stuff that pop in and pop out, and it's cool. It's not, if you're not used to it, it's strange, but once you figure out what's where and how to use it, it's pretty cool. And it's just different. It makes you, it's memorable. I remember, the first time coming back to this, as soon as I saw the layout, I was like, oh yeah, I've been here before. Stylistic alternatives though, look at these. These are crazy. 4 different kinds of K. That's cool. The W's, you got the loop W, and then you've got the W that's more like a V. Oh, the W and the V there, so those two would go together. I wouldn't use one without the other, of course. It probably, when you turn it on, it probably flips both of them. But yeah. Parachute, Harmonia variable. Alternates for non-Latin as well. I don't know what this is. What's that say? Greek. Okay, we got a lot to go through, so I'm just gonna scroll through this as fast as I can. So we've got the test drive here, so you can type in whatever you want and play around with it. But I just broke it, I think. Look, it's not even using the font anymore. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. That font is amazing, Harmonia. It looks beautiful. Obviously, it's gonna be very like case specific, but it says it's inspired by the elegance of Dido, and you can see that. It's gonna be very use case specific. You're not gonna be able to use this for everything, but I think if you have a project where you can use this, it seems like a real winner. I don't know how much it costs. We can check real quick. Maybe we'll cry afterwards. Buying options, desktop, yeah, it's 900 pounds, or no, 900 euros. So you're looking at over $1,000. But, you know, let's look at one from Brazil now. And this is one that I found super interesting, less so because of, the font itself, because we've seen typefaces like this before, but more so because of what it was inspired by and the fact that it is from a Brazilian type foundry. And if you don't know, I'm from Las Vegas, but I'm living in Brazil for the last year. And this font, it is beautiful. You can see right here. It's called, I'm probably going to butcher this. I think it's UI, which basically translates to wow. But they're calling it an Agile Sans for interfaces with a Mineiro accent. So that's a city, right? It's either a city or a state in Brazil. It's a location in Brazil. But I think that their Foundry website is really cool. So they've got the Foundry website, and then they've got the Foundry store here. Let's see what it's priced at real quick. Buy. Oh gosh. Yourself. Let's just do many. Oh, this is kind of interesting, this license. We talked about licensing earlier. You might be able to see this on the screen over here. I can see if I can make it bigger. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. So they've got these licenses to choose from, and rather than choosing like, oh, I want desktop, I want web, I want this, I want that, like instead of choosing them each individually, they've got these mixed use licenses. Yeah, that's cool. They have these mixed use licenses based on size. So they've got mini, small, medium, and large. And it gives you 3 desktop license, 15,000 web visits, 1 ebook, and an app too. So they've misspelled downloads there with 2 S's. But 250 euros for this? Like, let's go look at the font so you can see why I'm a little bit shocked by that. And let's fix the size of the screen. Okay, so you can see the typeface. It does feel familiar, but you can look at those A's and you can see that it's just a little bit different. You can look at those I's and you can see it's just a little bit different. And you can get a free trial of this right here. You can download the free trial. I did download it, but we don't have time to go and look at it today. They're calling this an UI of all trades. Let's see. And you can see a bunch of different use cases here where they're using it on films, music, what would you call this? Like travel, journals, and I don't know, some kind of maps or something. But I do think it looks nice. I was mostly interested though in it because it is from a Brazilian type foundry, Naipe, Naipe. If I was pronouncing this in English, I would just say Nape, but I know that it's probably Naipe. And you can see here, when it's put together, when it's put into these specimens, I just think it looks amazing. These are similar to the ones we saw before. But yeah, it's not something super different from what we see. You know, a normal person would see this in Helvetica and not know the difference. But as people that use typography, typographers, type designers, graphic designers, UX designers, whatever you are, and we see Kim Tidwell there again writing this article. I think it's a nice typeface and it's very reasonably priced for what it is, but I'm mostly interested in this because it's a Brazilian type foundry, and I thought that was really cool because I haven't come across a ton. There are some, but I haven't come across a ton of Brazilian typography in terms of, and compared to like Swiss, Dutch, American, European, English typography. This is Gear by, and I don't know, MCKL. I don't know if that's supposed to be Michael. Looks like Mickle, Jeremy Mickle. I hope I'm saying that right. Gear was originally, so this was just recently released, published 2025. I'm not sure why this isn't loading. Let me go to their homepage though, because I think that this specimen is really cool. Let's look at this first. I'm almost out of water. But you can see the typeface in action, and they've got it on this supplement bottle, and I think it's really cool. Like, you can imagine this as like a pre-workout or a protein protein powder or something like that. But I think we need to see more animated specimens like this, because I even emailed them because I subscribed to the newsletter. So I got this whenever I got the news about this whenever it released, and I replied to the email and complimented them on this specimen because it's silly and it's simple, but I think that it's really cool and it really displays, it kind of gives you, it puts in your brain like what this might be able to do. And obviously it can't move around on an actual bottle, but it's just more fun than seeing a PDF of this. And we can look at the PDF too, but so there's 216 styles. That's a combination of 8 widths, 9 weights, and then it's got the Roman back slant and the front forward slant. So this was originally an all caps display face commissioned by Adidas, if it looks familiar. It's from Adidas, from like, 7 years ago. So the first thing I'll say is I personally probably wouldn't buy a typeface that was used by a brand, a huge brand like Adidas, but there are definitely going to be use cases for this. So this is the PDF specimen that I said is silly to look at, but when you look at this, you can see how this was made for Adidas, but look at how deep this font goes. I said there was 216 styles. You can see it from the furthest, like lightest narrow down to the widest bold version, calling that one Ultra. And then you've got the slants that go backwards, the slants that go forward. It's just a super deep typeface, but I think you would have to be really, let's go back to the website. I think you'd have to like really have a good use case for this. Because I don't see a good situation where using a different brand's commission typeface for your brand makes sense. Maybe use it for a campaign, maybe use it for a poster if it's something super specific. Maybe use it as a parody if you're like, oh, I want to do something that looks like that. Not necessarily Adidas, but like the fitness industry. I think it works for that. Unfortunately, though, this isn't something that I think that I would ever use for if I had a brand, a fitness brand, or something that was competitive with Adidas, because you're just not necessarily biting their style. I don't care about that as much, but it's the fact that you're using their voice for your brand. And that goes perfectly into this. I'm going to skip one here and we're going to go to this one. TikTok released their typeface. They just updated it. Click on this one real quick. TikTok updated their typeface with Type Network and who was the other company? It's on Google Fonts, so we'll see it real quick. Contrast Foundry. So TikTok Sans was originally designed by Grilly Type. Incredible foundry. But it was just proprietary. It was just theirs. No one else could use it. Now you can download it. It's a free font. You can download it from TikTok. And I had another conversation with someone on Instagram, on Blue Sky. This was with Christopher Bush. And he was saying like, this is a smart move. And I asked why he thought it was a smart move. He said, it's not just open sourcing a custom typeface that is smart. It's smart because it's TikTok doing it. Their whole platform is built on user-generated content. Let me make this bigger for you. Their whole platform is built on user-generated content, and this font already shows up everywhere in their apps and videos. By making it public, they're just letting their brand spread even further, way beyond their own app. I didn't reply to that because I don't, what is there to reply to that? I just wanted to know what his opinion was. I didn't reply back. I just liked it and moved on with my day because I wanted to sit with that thought about like, is this actually a good thing to do? Is it a smart move? Is it not a smart move? Like TikTok released this. Basically they commissioned a typeface. They paid for it from 2 or 3 different people because they originally paid Grilly Type for it. And then they had it redone through Type Network. And then they released it for everyone to use. I think that it probably, I don't know that necessarily is a smart move in the sense of like, let's spread this and let other people use it. I think the only people that would use it would be people that are already on TikTok, maybe. I don't know. Who would use, because like if you're starting a brand, let's say I'm doing my rebrand for Objectives, like if I was starting my Jective brand over again, would I go and use a font called TikTok Sans? No, there's no way that I would. Why would I do that? And I feel the same way about the Adidas font. What was it called? Gear. I just don't see a use case for like why I would ever go and use another brand's typeface. So maybe it was a smart move because then anybody that uses it is using something called TikTok, and maybe they'll go use the app. But I think that it dilutes the brand, if I'm really being honest about it. And the reason I think it dilutes the brand is because now anybody can use your brand typeface. And obviously, like look at TikTok Sans. Like this isn't, let's look at it on Google Fonts real quick. Look at this. You know, it's nice, but out of all the typefaces we look at, you know, like if you glanced at this, would you even known that this was like a font that was designed specifically for them? Probably not. You know, like a normal person would never know or care. But they do a good job of showcasing it here. 14 styles, 1,000 plus glyphs. So one thing for sure that you could trust, one reason that might be a good one logical reason to use TikTok Sans to steelman the other side of this would be that a company as big as TikTok would have put in the effort and paid the type designers and the foundries and the agencies and stuff. They would have paid to have all use cases for TikTok covered, right? They're going to get a typeface that's going to be able to use for everything. So you can see right here, 14 styles, 1,000 plus glyphs. Sometimes we see typefaces, we're going to look one in a second, that have 200 glyphs. And those aren't typefaces you can use for everything. But that's my point, and that comes back to our very first conversation about Terrence at Monotype, where he's saying like, you need to choose a typeface that's going to be able to scale. A great argument for using TikTok Sans is going to be that this font is used on an application by I don't even know how many hundreds of millions of people. And they put in the work. They're covering all the languages. They're covering all the symbols. This typeface is 100% going to work. Oh, here are all the contributors to this. So Type Network. Yeah, I don't know what all these different symbols are. Type Network, Grilly Type. And then we saw the other one here was Contrast Foundry. But if you want the TikTok font, now you can get it for free. It's available on Google Fonts. I downloaded it just to play around with it, see what it looks like. But it's super deep, and I think that Christoph makes an interesting argument about this being a smart move. I am undecided on whether or not I think it is. This right here is pretty cool, this interactivity. I don't know. There are different sides of it. If you're TikTok, I think that, yeah, you do get people to use something that's called TikTok. You're spreading your brand further. If people use it, then your font is out there. But at the same time, that dilutes your brand. If I have a super specific font that's used for my brand and everybody else starts using it, how do I stand out now in terms of typography? I don't. And then if you're on the other side of it, do you want to use a font that's most recognized as being used with, you know, the biggest, not the biggest, but the most popular social media app right now? I wouldn't, but the best argument I can see for using this would be that TikTok has done all the work for you. They've paid amazing foundries to design this for you, to design it for them, but they paid amazing foundries to use this. You know, most people are never going to pay for a Grilly Type, especially not a custom bespoke Grilly Type font. But yeah, you can get this one, and TikTok's done all the legwork, and it's going to work for everything you need it to work for. So yeah, if you want that, go check it out on tiktok.com/font, or just check it out on Google Fonts. Something a little more simple, or a little more straightforward, I guess. Dalton Mogg. I looked up how to say it this time. I didn't say Dalton Mag. Dalton Mogg released Courier and Letter Gothic, and I love both of these typefaces. So they have this recast Let me see if I can find it. They have this recast section of their website. Maybe it doesn't matter. There's this recast collection of typefaces, and basically it's just typefaces that existed that are being recreated for modern use cases. And this is done all the time. Typefaces are reimagined or like redone, but they really try to make sure that it is accurate, as accurate to the original as possible. So it's saying just like a recast, as accurate as possible, but then expanded in a way that works in modern times. This is originally created by Howard Kettler for IBM in 1950s, and now we're looking at like 70 years later. That typeface wouldn't even work on like modern PC. You know what I mean? Like, you have to keep recreating it, but along the way, Courier has been reinvented over and over again, and these recast collections I think are really cool. You've got, Dalton Mogg, very reputable. So if I was going to go buy, a reimagined or gosh, I wish I could think of the word for this. If I was going to go buy like a copy of one of these fonts that had been recreated, these would be the first two that I would go check out in terms of like if I needed either one of these. I love Letter Gothic, and I love that there's an accurate recast of this now. I'm using their terminology. But yeah, both of these are really cool. If you've ever wanted to check out these typefaces, you've probably looked them up and there weren't a ton of weights. Like if you go and look this up, they've got, how many weights do they have on? They have all of these weights here. If you go look this up, typically you're going to see like 2 weights, maybe like a regular and a bold. Maybe you'll get lucky and there'll be 3 different weights. You've got a ton of weights here from hairline down to black. And then you've got the italic versions too. Same with Letter Gothic. You're only going to get a couple of weights in this typically. But they've got hairline down to black, and then they've got the italic version of it. So super high quality. You can get free trials of these. But if you want to buy it, you have to look up and cry when you see the prices. Just got a few more here. Almandin. I'm not sure how to say this. This is a French foundry, typographies.fr. The more, let's see the PDF specimen of this. The more I look at typefaces, I think I'm just in like a mood right now where I really like these brushstroke fonts, and I never used to. You can get this on I Love Typography for $32. $32. We look at fonts today that cost $1,000. So $32 for this, if we can get it to load. I do have the specimens downloaded if we need to get them, but it looks like it's going to load. It's a pretty big specimen. Let's just let this load for a second. Man, that's really slow, huh? I might just go grab it from my download folder. Let's just sit here and look at this for now. But I got this from their newsletter, so you can sign up for their newsletter if you wanted, typographies.fr. This is really taking its time. Should have loaded this before. I should have just opened this up in my PDF reader. There we go. Some of you probably right now are thinking like, why did I wait for this? If you don't like brush fonts, which I didn't used to. I really had no interest in these at all. But the more I get into typography, the more I see the same thing over and over and over. We beat ourselves over the head with grotesque sans, typefaces, and recreations of every old font in the world. And I think that this looks amazing. Almandin, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but you can see variable font, ton of styles, and you know what? I'm guessing that $32 is from $32. That's not the whole font. I got. But it looks very nice. It really does. I could see this working in a lot of use cases. You can see it here. Let's see if we can make this bigger. You can see it here being used as text, and you could read that, right? I mean, I wouldn't want to read a book with that, but you could read quite a bit of that text without having a problem. And then, of course, when it's large, you can see all the details, and it looks amazing. The one downside of a typeface like this would be that when you're doing those big displays like this, you do lose a little bit of the charm because it's imitated kind of like a hand sign painted brushed feel to it. So when you see a word like together that has repeated T's and repeated E's, and you see a word like land animal, words like land animals above it with all these A's, you see the same perfect letter over and over again. There's that imbalance or that discrepancy between like, okay, I know this is a typeface logically, but it's supposed to feel like it's been hand done and have that smooth feel to it. But then when you see the same letter repeated like that, it kind of breaks the spell a little bit. But I do think it looks nice. Let's see how much it actually costs. From 32. Where did they let you buy the whole thing? $224 for the whole family. I mean, that's reasonable if this is what if this is what you needed. I'm not sure how much it is on other websites, but on I Love Typography, $224 for the whole family. You got 14 fonts. Yeah, that seems reasonable if this is what you needed. It looks well designed. They've got some alternates for the A's you can see there. They've got some alternate for the G's, alternates of Y's. They've got some icons with the numbers and circles. It looks like a very well fleshed out typeface. Small caps, classic ligatures, non-lining figures, historical ligatures. They've got unicase. Oh, we need to look at unicase. Let's go back. Can we test this out here? Their website doesn't seem super, I don't know if we can test it out here. That's unfortunate. The unicase does look, oh wait, can we test it out here? No. The unicase does look really cool. You can teeny tiny see it right there. Let me see if I can open this in a background. Can we make this bigger? Nope. Okay. You can see it's gonna be super blurry, but you can see right down here, unicase, and they've got like the capitals and lowercase mixed together. And sometimes that can look terrible, but it's kind of fun that it exists. And they've got some ornamentation that looks like it's automatically done through OpenType. That's really cool. Circled numerals, ligatures, all kinds of good stuff for around $200, $224. That's pretty nice. But again, I don't know what the license like. Check out the license. If it's a headache, then it's not worth it, like I said. But it's pretty cool. It's a variable font, and I like it. Ooh, we're almost done. I know we're over time here. What are we at right now? 1 hour and 20 minutes. We did have a little bit of a hiccup before, but let's burn through the rest of these. We're going to skip Creative Boom's. Let me just mention this now. Creative Boom released 5 days ago. Their best new typefaces for July. We've covered a few of these, but I'm going to scroll through real quick. D8. Not going to talk about these. We'll just scroll through, and I'll let you see them. Lost. We did talk about that. I like that font. Towsend. RT Lately by Razia Type. Bus Sign by Applied Systems. Carol by Typonym. And I think that's it. Nope, one more. Regale by Silver Stag Type. So whenever these come out, I'm not necessarily sure how much of this is, obviously it's subjective, because how could it be like the best typeface? Obviously it's subjective. I don't know how much of this is relationships. I don't know how much of this is like, this was written by Tom May. It's by Creative Boom. Creative Boom's pretty big. I'm familiar with most of these foundries. I don't have any relationships with them other than, reporting on them and stuff like that. But I don't know if Creative Boom has any incentives or anything to like promote these. Maybe not. Maybe this is entirely entirely neutral but subjective in its decisions, but neutral in the sense that like there's no funny business going on. Anytime there's a best list, I just think of like when the cities do their like best of Las Vegas, best of Chicago, these types of things. They give out these awards, any award shows in general. It's all basically pay to play. So anytime that there's a best new typefaces list, I'm skeptical about if they're really the best. But this is what Creative Boom is saying that they think are the best ones for July. Let's look at Retain. This is the typeface by, where am I at right now? By Leinster Type. And this is another one that's not, gonna blow your socks off or anything. But the family is very reasonably priced. It's looking like over here you can get 9 styles for $270 on desktop, $135 on the internet. You can get the free trials. I did download the free trials. They work in Affinity. I can't talk about Adobe because I'm not sure anymore. But we'll go ahead and scroll through real quick. You can see pretty typical, grotesque sans. We see these all the time. But what I thought is cool is all the open type features. So they've got all these little spots right here we can click. Let's see if we can make this even bigger. Okay, that's about as big as we can get. They've got the hooked A. So you can see the little A there changing. Pop, pop, pop. The hooked T. You get the short T or the tall T. And then you can make it straight. Or you can make it straight and short. They've got a diagonal R. So instead of the curved like Helvetica style, Swiss style R there, you can get the more like Avenir type R. And then they've got this angular R. So you've got the diagonal here, and then you've got the angular there, like a heavy metal R. I can't see many use cases where I would use that, but in the right situation, that might be perfect. One that I do think is fun is they've got a numero sign, they're calling it. So this number here, you can turn into the number sign there. Really like that. That's cool. Let's see some more. So they've got the raised colon. So I won't go through all of these because they've got these individually set, but basically they've got stylistic alternatives for capitals versus lowercase. So if you've got the semicolon like this and you've got all caps, it seems kind of low. If you're looking at lowercase, that would seem fine. But when you've got it like this, you raise it and then it looks a little better. I think it even makes more sense when you're looking at something that's like got 2 straight lines on it. So that's just a nice feature to have, right? And these are the things that make the difference between all of these different grotesque sans that looked grotesque, or any of these sans serifs that look very, very similar. All these little details, these open type features, the variable fonts, the different axes and stuff like that. This is what makes the difference in terms of which one you should buy, along with the price and the license. But these are really what you go and look for when you're more into typography. Square dots. I prefer the round ones. So this is going to work on lowercase letters as well. I have my caps on. I, J. HR looks like there's a -8 in the middle. It does, like a -8 or a -A. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, wait, with this one, yeah. Yeah, with this one, it does look like a -8. Yeah. So yeah, you can raise it and then it just looks a little bit nicer. Hi, Liana, thanks for the comment. Yeah, it does look like an 8 in there. Yeah, something we need to be aware of is negative space, because I didn't even see it there. But somebody else would have out in the wild, right? So they have capital punctuation and stuff like that. But I think the open type features here are pretty cool. They've got the circular numbers and stuff like that too. Got regular ones. They've got ones inside the circle, the black ones that are in the black. They've got old style figures. So let's go ahead and do these 2, 3, 4. So like they've got the old style figures, super deep typeface. But I think all of the open type features are cool. Will I remember this typeface? No, probably not. But if I ever need a typeface like this, those are the features that I'll be looking for. So maybe that's what you need, and maybe this will be the right, just the right timing to look at this for you. I have one more font, one more event, and then 2 fun, quick things to show at the end of this. This is Gregory Grotesque. This one just released. But I'm going to show you the newsletter that I got from Typemates. So this is the newsletter that came. And you can see this is Gregory Grotesque. This is Gregory Poster. And this is coming out in 2026, and it is Gregory Text. So these three are part of like a super family, and we were talking about that. I talked about that in the review of Thinking with Type that I just published. But this typeface, again, it's a grotesque sans serif typeface. It's variable. It's got a bunch of weights. It's got a bunch of widths. It's got a bunch of open type features like we just talked about. I mean, this one looks like it has tons of them. Black circles, Cyrillics, denominators, like lining figures. It's got all kinds of stuff. But what I think sets this one apart from something like Retain is that it's part of a bigger family. Look at these majuscules though. Look at these hands. That's fun. I wish I knew the alt codes to type these in right now for you, but that's fun. Like little cartoon hands. That's something interesting, right? But what I think is most cool about this is that it's part of a bigger collection, this Gregory collection. Where is it? So only two of them are released right now, but they've got Gregory Poster and Gregory Grotesque. Grotesque, it does just looks like everything else, but sometimes that's what you need. If what you needed though was Poster, this is super unique, right? This has a lot of this has its own vibe going. Interesting that the manuscules, is it called a manuscule? The little hand. Interesting that the little hand looks nothing, that wouldn't match very well. But is there a way? Oh, we can. If we look at, if we look at Grotesque and we look at Poster at the same time, can I split this? We'll go horizontal. If we look at these together, maybe we'll just do these two right here. They've created these to work well together, so you can kind of see the R's, how they would match together. There's a lot of differences, but you can see the T, that top of the T there. It's they both kind of got that space there. What would you even call that? That little bridge. My brain isn't working. But you can see, even though these are vastly different, they do kind of feel like they go together, especially when you see them written out a little bit more. The point of this is to say that another thing you might look at when you're choosing a big grotesque family like this, big grotesque sans family, is what else can it do? And this one from Typemates, Gregory Grotesque, also comes with this collection, and in 2026 it will have the text version, which is going to have the serifs. So you'd have a full thing. So maybe this doesn't work for anybody right now, but it's something cool to look forward to, I guess, and I'll report on it in another 6 months or 8 months or however long it is until then. But I thought this was cool. Let's go ahead and move on to the events. We've got an event from Letterform coming up. I actually had more events to report to you, but we missed out on them because I missed 2 weeks of news. But we've got some events here coming. Font pairing. Thank you, Daryl. Font pairing. The font pairing is made much easier when you have a super family like that. You don't have to think. They've done it for you. But yeah, so we've got events coming up. This one's actually in 3 days. On Tuesday, this one's coming up. It's called For a Long Time There Was Type and There Were Pictures. I don't know necessarily what it's about. I guess we can look real quick. It says a talk from behind the scenes at InScript, an event exploring the zeitgeist of current trends and technologies in expressive typography. Yeah, so that might be cool. It's free. That's the main reason I'm pointing it out. It's free. Any of these free events, I always sign up for them, check them out. I check out what they are, because there's zero investment. You just go pop in. If it's not fun, then you leave, just like these live streams. But Letterform Archive always has a bunch of events going on. So I would go check that out. letterformarchive.org/events. I'll link this below. I'll link this in the description afterwards. But I know this one here is coming up on Tuesday, so I wanted to mention it. It's going to be free. And it seems like it might be cool. Last thing, and this is just a fun thing that has very little to do with typography. Let's see if the page loads. I've got two of them, but I want to show this one first. Let's put this one in the background. So this is a redone website for an agency, or for a design studio, I guess, called No Single Individual. And it's just kind of cool because it's like an old Windows, like 95, I guess, or maybe this is even older. I'm not sure. Oh, that's going to go to their LinkedIn. But they've got all these little pop-ups and stuff. And I just thought this was cool. An interesting little thing to do on your website. It makes you stay on their website longer. You'll probably remember them if you're in the market for something like this. But yeah, I don't even know what they do. But I just thought the website was cool. And in terms of typography, you can look at all of the typefaces they've got on here. They got all these different pixel fonts and stuff that are up here. And then they're using like real typefaces. This is a monospace typeface. Down here, that's Anonymous Pro. This up here is Tiny 5. They're using real typefaces on here so you can actually read them, but the stuff that you don't have to read is in like these fun little pixel fonts. If you want to know how to look up what a font is on the screen, there's a bunch of different of these, but I use an extension called What Font, and you can just click it and you can scroll over and it'll show you the name of the font. And if you click on it, it'll actually show you like the weight, the size, the color, these different things. So if you ever wanted to know what a font on a website was, and it's an actual font, not just a picture, use an extension. I'm on Vivaldi, but so this would be like in the Google store, and it's called What Font. Lastly and this is the biggest fun one. Let's go ahead and kill Notion and make this full screen. I wonder if I'll still be on the screen, right? Let me move myself out of the way. So this is Frame of Reference, a history of Mac settings. I didn't read through all of this. I'm going to be honest. I didn't read through all of it. I'm going to come back to it and read it. But what is cool is that all of these are interactive. You can use all of these old Mac apps and open up everything, move them around, and you scroll through the website, and you can go to 1986, and then you can use the Macintosh Plus, and you can go into Excel, and you can literally open up a spreadsheet on this 1986 Macintosh. And it works too. 159. Let's see if the math actually works. How would you even do that? Equals 2 plus 2. Oh no, it doesn't let you hit the plus key. There it is. And it works. They're using some kind of emulators on this website, but they've emulated not just these super old easy ones to use. So they've got all of them here, and they load up as you go. But you can go into all of these and actually use it. And some of these are sideways and stuff, so it's not going to be the most pleasant experience. But you can start going into the newer ones, and then you get PageMaker. Look, there's Quark Express. You could go on here and make a make a document or something. There it is. Look at that. I didn't use Quark Express back in whenever this was. Quark Express 1991. But wow, it's pretty cool to look and see. I'm going to have to go back and look through this and see what apps they have on here. And I don't even know how they're legally doing this. I don't know how they're using all of these different applications but you can go through, and it goes all the way to current times. Let's go to some more graphics here and say they have Photoshop 1 on here. Oh my goodness. Look at that. I think they actually had Photoshop 3 as well. Wow. I don't even know how to use this. They've got the toolbar here, but let's keep scrolling. What does this have to do with typography? Very little, if we're being honest. But I think it's fun, and I think that if you're interested in typography, you've probably used a Mac at some point in your life, but you've probably not used all of these. I know I definitely haven't. I'm a little nervous to click on kid pics. I don't know what that would be. But they do have games and stuff on some of these Macs too. But what's cool is you can see the typography. You could probably go in and you could look at, I can't remember where the fonts are on here. Back when laptops were $10,000. Yeah, right? Now it's just the GPUs. Yeah, this is crazy. I don't even know what most of this stuff is. Glypher. But I would assume that you could get into like the font. Oh man, I remember being a kid, and they had these Macs, and I didn't even know what it was, but I just loved the translucent like these translucent laptops and PC or iMacs and MacBooks. They looked so cool. I had a fake one that was inside of like a magazine. It was in an old Rolling Stone, and I used to pretend that I had a MacBook because I had because I had a little like fold out version of it. Let's go into the graphics one and see what they have though. I don't even know how to close this. There we go. Would you go into graphics? Yeah, so they've got Photoshop. Man, I was looking at like the games on here because they had like they have Mac Paint, Intro to Graphics. Yeah, so they have Photoshop 3. I guess we could click on that one. But yeah, I think it would be super cool to go through this and look at like the old typography in terms of if you guys know what I can't remember what like the font folder or the font application is called on Macs. I had Macs for like 12 years, but now I have a PC. Oh, this looks a little more familiar, huh? Wow. It's cool that all this works on this website and it's not like crashing or anything. But yeah, they go through and they talk about all of the UI and stuff like that. This is the PowerBook. Let's see if they have 19. Oh, the Next. That's funny that they're talking about even Next. Whenever Steve Jobs left Apple or was kicked out of Apple and started his new company called Next and then came back to Apple. Next would have been before those iMacs and stuff though, those colorful ones, because he was around for those. Oh, I guess that's where we're ending. So maybe that's how they're getting away with it, by not like showing the absolute newest ones. But all these emulators, man, it's cool. And I've never used most of these. But I think that most people, if you've ever used a Mac, I think it'd be pretty fun to like, oh goodness, it's captured my mouse. I think it'd be pretty fun to go through and play around with these. I don't know how to get out of this now. That's frustrating. Okay, we'll just click off the screen and we're gonna have to close this. Let's go ahead and switch back to the face cam because that's gonna be it for this one. You can see it was daylight when we started. It is nighttime now. I've never been a Mac user. That's why I use FontLab and not Glyphs. Yeah, I don't use Mac anymore, but I don't. A lot of people use Glyphs, and it's very frustrating that I can't even try it because I'm on a PC. Do you like using FontLab though? I've looked into a bunch of different software, and I'm not a type designer, as I've mentioned many times. So I'm not, you know, I'm an enthusiast. So I've never designed a typeface, but I've looked at a bunch of different apps and never pulled the trigger on any of them. I think I have Font Forge downloaded, but I just use it to like check the files and stuff. But yeah, I don't know, but if you like Macs, I think that website would be pretty cool. But I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thank you, Daryl and Liana, for hanging out and talking a little bit. Thanks for everyone else that watched. If you are interested in this book, I just posted a review of it. I got a stack of books here sitting, waiting to be reviewed. If there's a book that you want reviewed, let me know. If there's stuff that you want to be covered in the news that I don't cover, go ahead and let me know. For PC, there's probably No Better. They usually have a good sale every fall. Cool. I'll look out in the fall then. Maybe they'll have something on Black Friday or something like that. Thank you for the recommendation. I will see you guys next time. I promise it won't be 2 weeks this time. Have a good night or a good day wherever you are. Bye.